There is a kind of exhaustion that sleep does not fix. It is not the exhaustion that comes after a hard workout, or a long drive, or a demanding week where your body simply needs rest. It is not even always the exhaustion that follows obvious suffering. Sometimes your life can look perfectly normal from the outside, and yet inside, something feels thin, frayed, overused. You go to bed tired, wake up tired, and carry a strange heaviness through the day that no amount of caffeine, distraction, or forced positivity seems able to touch. And what makes this kind of exhaustion so dangerous is that it often has no dramatic story behind it. Nothing catastrophic happened. No major crisis exploded. No single betrayal, no single failure, no single event arrives big enough to justify the level of depletion you feel. And because there is no obvious villain, most people blame themselves. They assume they are becoming weak. Too sensitive. Too emotional. Too overwhelmed. Too unable to handle what everyone else seems to handle. But what if that is not the truth? What if the real problem is not that you are weak, but that too many things have gained quiet access to your mind? What if your peace is not being destroyed by one big event, but slowly drained by 100 small permissions you never realized you were giving? Because this is the part modern life rarely admits. It rewards you for making yourself accessible. It praises responsiveness. It praises flexibility. It praises being understanding, being accommodating, being emotionally available, being easy to reach, easy to persuade, easy to involve, easy to pull into other people's urgency. It calls this maturity. It calls this kindness. It calls this professionalism. It calls this love. And then when you begin to feel mentally crowded, emotionally reactive, inwardly resentful, and spiritually tired, it labels the result, stress, as if this were some unfortunate side effect of being alive rather than the predictable outcome of living with no true inner gatekeeping. But it is predictable. Very predictable. Most people do not lose their peace in one loud collapse. They lose it in small daily withdrawals. In the message they answer while already depleted. In the conversation they keep going because ending it would feel rude. In the request they accept because disappointing someone feels harder than burdening themselves. In the emotional labor they perform automatically because they were trained to manage atmospheres, smooth tensions, absorb moods, and translate everyone else's discomfort into their own responsibility. In the invisible habit of giving away presents before first asking whether that presents should have been given at all. That is how peace disappears. Not only through pain. Through access. And in a culture built on stimulation, availability, constant reaction, social performance, and endless psychological noise, access is one of the most expensive things you can surrender. So in this video, I want to talk about the silent habits that protect inner peace. Not the glamorous habits. Not the ones people post online to look disciplined. Not the cosmetic version of calm. I mean the deep habits. The invisible disciplines. The almost unimpressive forms of wisdom that make a human being harder to invade, harder to scatter, harder to spend. We are going to look at what truly drains a person. Why so many decent, thoughtful, high-functioning adults live with a form of exhaustion they cannot fully explain. Why modern society often trains people to betray themselves and then praises them for it. Why some of the traits you were taught to admire in yourself may actually be the exact places where your energy is leaking. And most importantly, how Stoic wisdom can help you reclaim your attention, your steadiness, your clarity, and your emotional sovereignty without becoming bitter, detached, or cold. And near the end, I want to show you one mistake many good people make without realizing it, one mistake that quietly turns kindness into self-abandonment. If lately you have been feeling tired in a way that feels deeper than physical fatigue, stay with me. Because this may not be burnout. It may be unguarded energy. 1. The exhaustion nobody sees. There is a kind of day many adults know intimately. You wake up, check your phone too early, and before your feet even touch the ground, your mind has already been entered by other people. Messages. News. A work email. A family update. A small problem. A request. A reminder. A group chat. A notification that carries no real importance but still manages to pull your attention out of yourself. Then the day begins. You get ready. You move. You answer. You coordinate. You take care of responsibilities. You speak politely. You stay composed. You keep functioning. Nothing dramatic happens. No major conflict. No crisis. No real disaster. It looks like an ordinary day, maybe even a successful one. You got things done. You replied. You handled what needed to be handled. And yet by evening, your inner life feels strangely overused. Your patience is shorter. Your silence feels heavier. Your mind feels crowded even when the room is quiet. You sit down to rest, but rest does not arrive fully. Something in you is still buzzing. Not loudly. Just enough to keep you from dropping into yourself. Enough to make peace feel close, but somehow unavailable. This is the kind of exhaustion many people normalize for years. They say, it's just adulthood. It's just work. It's just having responsibilities. It's just life. And yes, responsibility does cost energy. Adulthood is not weightless. Work is real. Relationships require effort. But that is not the whole picture. Often what drains people most is not only the visible work they do. It is the invisible absorption happening around that work. You are tired not only from what you did. You are tired from what you carried. From what entered you. From what lingered in you. From what asked for your attention and never fully left. A 5-minute conversation can leave behind an hour of residue. A short text can open a loop in the mind that follows you through the afternoon. A request you agreed to too quickly can create a background layer of resentment that drains your entire evening. An awkward interaction can continue inside you long after it ended outside you. A comment someone made casually can pull you into self-doubt for the rest of the day. A meeting can end, but the emotional tempo of that meeting can remain inside your nervous system for hours. This is why many people feel exhausted without being able to defend the feeling logically. They cannot point to one giant event. They only know that by the end of the day, they feel spent. And the Stoics would not dismiss this. They understood that a human being is not shaped only by major events. He is shaped by what he repeatedly lets into his mind. He is shaped by interpretation. By attention. By habits of reaction. By the quality of his inner boundary. Marcus Aurelius did not live in a world of smartphones, social media, constant digital access, or group chats that follow you into bed. But he understood the central battle better than many modern people do. He understood that the mind must be governed, or it will be occupied. That if you do not choose what gets authority inside you, the world will choose for you. And that is still true. Maybe more true than ever. Because now the modern person is not only dealing with events. He is dealing with continual intrusion. Tiny claims on his attention, all day, every day. Claims so small they look harmless, but so constant they leave his mind with no real room to breathe. This is why inner peace is no longer something you can stumble into. It has to be protected. Intentionally. Quietly. Almost stubbornly. 2. Energy is not time. One of the biggest mistakes people make when trying to understand their own depletion is that they think only in terms of time. Do I have time for this? Can I fit this in? How long will this take? But time is not the whole equation. Time is the outer measurement. Energy is the inner reality. And if you confuse the two, you will keep overcommitting yourself in ways that look manageable on paper but feel devastating in lived experience. You can technically have time and still have no real capacity. You can have 2 free hours and be too mentally fractured to think clearly, love well, write honestly, listen deeply, or rest meaningfully. You can finish work at a decent hour and still feel incapable of being present to your family because too much of your emotional energy was consumed before you got home. You can have a quiet evening and still feel inwardly crowded. That is because energy is not just stamina. It is not just physical vitality. It is life force. It is the strength of your attention. It is the steadiness behind your tone. It is the clarity behind your judgment. It is the inward substance from which patience, restraint, compassion, and focus are made. And once you truly understand that, life begins to look very different. A 10-minute phone call is not always 10 minutes. Sometimes it is 10 minutes plus the 90 minutes afterward, because the call unsettled your mind, interrupted your concentration, or pulled you into emotional territory you did not want to enter. A favor is not always a favor. Sometimes it is a transfer of burden that costs you peace long after the act itself is over. A conversation is not always just words. Sometimes it is performance. Translation. Emotional labor. Tone management. Self-suppression. Silent calculation. The effort to remain gentle while something in you is already depleted. This is why people often say yes to things they technically have time for and then feel inexplicably bitter later. They measured with the wrong currency. Time asked, "Can this fit?" Energy asked, "Can I carry this without damaging myself?" And if you are not used to listening to the second question, you will spend years overloading yourself while appearing organized. This is one of the quiet tragedies of adulthood. A person can become highly efficient and still have no peace. He can manage calendars, hit deadlines, keep appointments, stay polite, reply on time, fulfill expectations, and still live in a state of chronic inner leakage because he never learned that his real resource is not hours, but presence. Presence is finite. Attention is finite. Emotional steadiness is finite. Clarity is finite. And once the day has drawn too much from these deeper reserves, even simple things begin to feel heavy. That is why your peace is not protected merely by good scheduling. It is protected by wise allocation of energy. And that requires honesty. Because many things that look small are not small in energetic terms. A short interaction can be costly. A seemingly minor obligation can be expensive. A small social demand can leave behind a large emotional bill. And if you never learn to notice this, you will keep telling yourself that nothing is wrong while your spirit slowly dries out. 3. The world rewards overgiving. Here is where we need to be more honest than society usually allows. Modern life does not simply drain people by accident. It trains them to participate in their own depletion. From a young age, many people are taught that goodness means accommodation. That maturity means being easy to deal with. That kindness means always making room. That love means availability. That professionalism means immediate response. That a calm and decent person should be able to absorb pressure without making others uncomfortable. So people grow up learning how to overextend with a smile. They become the one who understands. The one who doesn't make things harder. The one who replies quickly. The one who takes one more task. The one who explains gently. The one who keeps the peace. The one who absorbs tone, manages tension, and smooths emotional edges so others do not have to confront their own discomfort. And because these behaviors are socially rewarded, they start to feel noble. But many socially rewarded behaviors are only noble up to a point. Beyond that point, they become self-erasure. And society is not especially good at warning you when you have crossed that line. In fact, one of its more manipulative habits is to praise your overgiving while quietly depending on it. It says you are dependable. What it often means is that you are highly usable. It says you are emotionally intelligent. What it sometimes means is that you are willing to carry emotions that do not belong to you. It says you are so mature. What it may really mean is that you know how to silence your own needs without visibly disturbing the room. It says you are such a good person. What it may be rewarding is your willingness to remain accessible at the expense of your own center. That is a hard truth, but an important one. Because once you begin to see it, many things from your life start making more sense. Why certain relationships leave you tired. Why some workplaces praise you and still drain you. Why some family dynamics rely on your calm more than they respect your humanity. Why people often love the version of you that asks for the least and absorbs the most. And this is where a more Machiavellian reading of the world becomes useful, not as a philosophy of cruelty, but as a corrective against naivety. Machiavellian insight, at its cleanest, is not about becoming manipulative. They keep conversations going long after they have become draining because they do not want to appear cold. They absorb moods and atmospheres because they fear what distance might say about them. They agree too quickly. They volunteer too often. They keep emotional doors open because closed doors make them feel guilty. And slowly, over time, the self disappears into performance. This is one of the great hidden costs of being the good one. You begin to live less from conviction and more from reaction. Less from choice and more from conditioning. Less from truth and more from fear of how truth will be received. Carl Jung once wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." That is exactly what happens here. A person may spend years saying, "This is just how life is," not realizing that his life is being shaped by unexamined inner rules. Rules like, I must not disappoint people. I must explain myself fully or I will be misunderstood. I must keep the atmosphere soft. I must not let people think badly of me. I must remain available if I want to be loved. I must absorb discomfort instead of causing it. I must keep proving that I am kind. These rules do not feel like rules. They feel like identity. Like morality. Like decency. Like who you are. But often they are just old survival strategies dressed in moral language. And if you never question them, you will call your exhaustion maturity. You will call your resentment responsibility. You will call your overextension compassion. You will call your self-betrayal love. But peace never grows where truth is absent. And truth begins when you stop saying only, "People take too much from me," and start asking, "Why do I keep making it so easy for them?" That question is not cruel. It is freeing. Because once you ask it honestly, you can finally begin to close the doors you were taught to keep open. 5. The hidden leaks inside you. Not all drains come from other people. Some of the most exhausting drains are internal. invisible, private, silent. And because they happen entirely inside the mind, they are often harder to detect and even harder to explain. One of the most powerful internal drains is the anxiety of being perceived incorrectly. Think about how much life is lost there. Not in real danger. Not in actual harm. But in mental rehearsals. Imagined conversations. Future arguments. Silent courtroom scenes in which you defend yourself before anyone has accused you. The effort to manage how your tone might be interpreted. How your silence might be perceived. How your delay might be judged. How your boundary might be misread. How your refusal might make you look. A person can burn enormous amounts of energy on things that never happen. That is not peace. That is internal captivity. And the modern world intensifies it because so much of social life now lives in half-visible spaces: texts, reactions, short replies, delayed replies, online signals, ambiguous tone, social media cues, emotional guesswork. Your mind becomes a machine for filling in blanks. And most of the time, it fills them with threat, obligation, or guilt. Then there is comparison. Comparison is one of the quietest forms of violence people commit against themselves. It does not always look dramatic. Sometimes it looks like mild dissatisfaction. A subtle sense that your life is behind. That you should be further along. That your healing should be faster. That your relationships should look better. That your body should feel stronger. That your success should be more obvious. That your peace should be more impressive. Comparison takes your attention off the life you are actually living and scatters it across the lives of strangers, acquaintances, colleagues, siblings, friends, old classmates, people online, people you barely know, people whose lives you do not understand and whose inner worlds you never see. And because comparison is usually mixed with shame, it drains not only attention but gratitude. It leaves you disconnected from your own path. It makes you less interested in alignment and more obsessed with ranking. Less aware of what is true for you and more haunted by how you appear against others. The Stoic does not measure life that way. He asks a different question. Not, how am I doing compared to them? But, what is mine to govern well? That question brings energy back home. Then there is imagined obligation. This one is especially dangerous because it feels moral. It feels responsible. But many people carry emotional burdens nobody explicitly asked them to carry. They feel they should explain. They feel they should reach out. They feel they should fix the atmosphere. They feel they should rescue the awkwardness. They feel they should keep the relationship afloat. They feel they should absorb tension before it becomes visible. They feel they should smooth the mood, manage the discomfort, volunteer the labor, read between the lines, anticipate every possible need before it is spoken. And all of this can happen before a single external request is made. Do you see how exhausting that is? You are not only living your life. You are mentally pre-living everyone else's possible reaction to your life. You are paying emotional invoices that have not yet been sent. You are lending your nervous system to future scenarios that may never exist. That is not compassion. That is overfunctioning. And overfunctioning has broken many peaceful people. Another leak is the need to remain coherent in the eyes of others. Many people are less exhausted by what they do than by the effort to maintain a version of themselves that others have grown comfortable with. The reliable one. The calm one. The one who always gets it. The one who is spiritually mature, emotionally balanced, endlessly patient, never too much, never unavailable, never suddenly difficult. So when their true feelings begin to diverge from that role, they experience not only fatigue, but identity conflict. They want space, but space does not fit the role. They want to say no, but no does not fit the role. They want distance, but distance threatens the image. So they keep performing. And performance drains the soul faster than many people realize. Because peace cannot live for long in a person who is always acting. 6. The pause is sovereignty. If there is one habit that can change the texture of a person's entire inner life, it is this. The pause. A pause before speaking. A pause before replying. A pause before agreeing. A pause before offering explanation. A pause before rushing in to emotionally manage what is not yours. A pause before absorbing another person's tempo as if it were your duty to match it. This sounds simple, but it is revolutionary. Because most people live under the tyranny of the automatic. Automatic response. Automatic guilt. Automatic agreement. Automatic emotional labor. Automatic self-betrayal in the name of being good. And every automatic pattern is a place where freedom has gone missing. The pause restores freedom. When you pause, you create a gap between stimulus and surrender. A message arrives. You do not have to answer at once. A request appears. You do not have to accept immediately. A person becomes emotionally urgent. You do not have to become inwardly urgent with them. A misunderstanding forms. You do not have to explain yourself into exhaustion in the first 10 seconds. A mood enters the room. You do not have to let it move into your body. In that small gap, a great deal becomes visible. You notice your fatigue. You notice your reluctance. You notice the contraction in your body. You notice the resentment that signals misalignment. You notice where guilt appears even when no real wrongdoing exists. You notice when your mouth is about to agree to something your spirit has already rejected. And that is powerful. Because many people are not actually incapable of boundary. They are simply too fast to hear themselves. Their conditioning moves quicker than their awareness. So the pause becomes a way of hearing truth before performance takes over. And once you start pausing, you begin to see the architecture of your life more clearly. You notice which people leave you calmer and which leave you scattered. Which tasks are effortful but meaningful, and which are simply draining. Which conversations are mutual, and which are extraction. Which obligations come from values, and which come from fear of being perceived badly. Which roles nourish you, and which survive only because you have never interrupted them long enough to question them. The pause is not weakness. It is sovereignty. It is the moment you stop offering immediate access to everything outside you. It is the moment you begin governing your own threshold. And this is deeply Stoic. Because Stoicism is not merely about enduring hardship. It is about mastery of interpretation, mastery of response, mastery of inner order. It is about refusing to let the world dictate the movements of your soul. Epictetus taught that what disturbs men is not things, but their judgments about things. That does not mean external life is irrelevant. It means your peace depends not only on what happens, but on how much authority you grant what happens. And the pause is where that authority gets negotiated. 7. See the patterns, or repeat them. Another silent habit that protects inner peace is observation. Not obsession. Not endless self-analysis. Not turning your inner life into a never-ending project. Just honest observation. Because if you do not observe your patterns, you will keep living inside them while calling the result fate. At the end of a day, many people simply say, "I'm tired." But that sentence is too vague to be useful. Tired from what? Tired from work? From people? From your own mind? From overstimulation? From overexposure? From having no real solitude? From a certain relationship? From the effort of maintaining a role? From carrying attention nobody asked you to carry? From saying yes too often? From emotional overinterpretation? From comparison? From lack of silence? Without observation, everything blurs together. The person remains tired, but learns nothing from the tiredness. The same leaks continue. The same openings remain unguarded. The same forms of self-betrayal wear different clothes, and the person keeps calling the whole thing life. Seneca wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." That waste happens not only through laziness. It happens through leakage. Through unconscious spending. Through repeatedly handing your best attention to what does not deserve it. So ask more honest questions. What gave me strength today? What quietly drained me? Where did I feel most myself? Where did I begin performing? What conversation left residue? What environment made my mind tighter? What request felt clean? What request felt invasive? When did I act from conviction? When did I act from fear of perception? What did I say yes to that my body had already said no to? Who am I around certain people? Who do I stop being around them? These questions are not dramatic. But they are powerful. Because they transform vague suffering into usable knowledge. And once something becomes visible, it becomes changeable. Not instantly. Not easily. But honestly. This is one of the ways peace returns, not through fantasy, but through accurate seeing. 8. Selective availability. There is a phrase many people need to hear more often. You do not need to be reachable at the speed of other people's impulses. That alone would change many lives. Because one of the most exhausting modern assumptions is that access should be immediate. A person texts, you answer. A person calls, you pick up. A person becomes urgent, you adapt. A person has a feeling, you must make room right now. A person wants clarity, you owe it instantly. But this assumption is destructive. Not because response is bad. Because constant immediate response conditions the mind into permanent openness. And a mind that is always open is a mind that never truly rests. Selective availability is one of the most underrated forms of self-respect. It means you decide the conditions under which you engage. Not every message deserves immediate attention. Not every issue deserves same-day entry into your mental world. Not every emotional storm deserves access to your nervous system. Not every invitation from chaos needs an RSVP. This does not mean you become cruel. It means you stop treating your presence like a public resource. There is dignity in delayed response. There is wisdom in not living at the pace of external urgency. There is health in letting some things wait until you are clear enough to meet them without self-fragmentation. Many people are exhausted not because their lives are too full, but because they allow too many interruptions to define the shape of their day. And interruptions do more than steal time. They fracture continuity. They weaken focus. They make attention shallow. They train the body into micro-alertness. They erode depth. A person who is always reachable often loses the ability to descend fully into anything: work, love, reflection, rest, prayer, silence, conversation, even joy, because some part of him remains slightly available to interruption. That is not freedom. That is partial occupation. Peace requires fuller inhabitation of your own life. And fuller inhabitation requires protected space. You may need to answer later. Return the call later. Think before responding. Sleep before replying. Step out before engaging. Let some people experience a version of you that is no longer instant. Not because you are punishing them. Because you are reclaiming yourself. 9. Stop over-explaining. Another silent habit that saves enormous energy is refusing to over-explain. Many people do not realize how much peace they lose trying to make every boundary emotionally acceptable to everyone else. They do not simply say no. They soften it. Decorate it. Justify it. Wrap it in apology. Add context. Add reassurance. Add more reassurance. Explain the logic. Explain the circumstances. Explain the emotional intention behind the explanation. Explain why they are not angry. Explain why they still care. Explain why the no is not a rejection of the person. Explain why the delay was not disrespect. Explain why the space is not personal. Explain until the original boundary is barely visible beneath the fog of emotional management. And all of this usually comes from fear. Fear of being misunderstood. Fear of being seen as selfish. Fear of disappointing someone. Fear that a simple truth will not be enough unless it is softened into a story that preserves the other person's comfort. But every extra sentence is an energetic cost. Every over-explanation reopens a door you were trying to close. Every unnecessary justification invites more negotiation. Every attempt to make your boundary emotionally painless to the other person can become another form of self-abandonment. A peaceful person learns the dignity of enough. I can't do that. I'm not available. Not today. I need time. That doesn't work for me. I won't be able to. These are complete sentences. Mature, calm, sufficient. Not cruel. Not dramatic. Not cold. Just clear. And clarity protects peace. Because many people do not realize that confusion is exhausting. Ambiguity is exhausting. Half boundaries are exhausting. Saying no in a way that still leaves the whole negotiation alive is exhausting. You do not always owe an emotional escort service for your decisions. Especially if the only reason you are explaining so much is that someone else has grown entitled to the version of you that makes everything easy. Sometimes the deepest act of self-respect is simplicity. 10. Solitude is repair. If your mind has been repeatedly entered by demands, comparison, noise, reaction, social performance, and emotional residue, then silence is not a luxury. It is repair. Solitude is not avoidance. It is re-entry. A return to your own signal. Many people have lost contact with themselves not because they are shallow, but because they are overstimulated. Their thoughts are always mingling with other people's thoughts. Their moods with other people's moods. Their priorities with other people's demands. Their attention with other people's timelines. So they begin to live outwardly competent lives with inwardly muffled centers. They can still function. Still speak intelligently. Still fulfill obligations. Still look stable. But when it is finally quiet, they do not know what they feel. They do not know what they want. They do not know what is theirs and what they have absorbed. That is why deliberate solitude matters. Walking without stimulation. Time in nature. Journaling without performance. Silence without content. Prayer, contemplation, reflection, stillness, whatever form brings you back into contact with what is real beneath the noise. These are not decorative habits. They are cleansing habits. They help the mind separate what belongs to it from what it has merely carried. They reveal patterns. You begin to notice that some interactions always leave attacks. That some people never ask much directly, yet always leave you feeling heavy. That some obligations are aligned with your values while others are simply inherited guilt. That some roles no longer fit the person you are becoming. That some kinds of being there are really forms of disappearing from yourself. Without solitude, these truths remain blurred. With solitude, they become hard to ignore. And once they become visible, peace stops being abstract. It becomes strategic. You begin choosing more carefully. Not everything deserves access. Not everyone deserves full emotional entry. Not every atmosphere deserves your adaptation. Not every tension deserves your management. Not every story others have about you deserves correction. This is what solitude gives back: discrimination. And discrimination is a great protector of peace. 11. Boundaries refine love. One reason many people resist boundaries is that they secretly believe boundaries reduce love. They imagine that if they become less available, less absorbent, less accommodating, they will become colder, less kind, less spiritual, less caring, less good. But this is one of the most damaging lies people carry. Boundaries do not reduce love. They refine it. They protect its quality. Without boundaries, care becomes resentment. Generosity becomes compulsion. Listening becomes emotional fatigue. Availability becomes self-erasure. Patience becomes suppressed anger. You can give and give and give, and if there is no structure protecting your center, what you are calling love may slowly transform into exhaustion wearing a moral mask. That is why healthy boundaries do not make a person less loving. They make love more sustainable. They allow a yes to mean yes. They allow presence to be wholehearted instead of forced. They allow generosity to come from strength instead of depletion. They allow compassion without merger. They allow you to care for others without abandoning yourself inside the act of caring. This is deeply important because many adults, especially thoughtful and conscientious ones, have spent years being praised for the kind of love that destroys them. Love that always says yes. Love that always absorbs. Love that does not need rest. Love that is always accessible. Love that proves itself through sacrifice. But sacrifice without wisdom is not always virtue. Sometimes it is simply poor boundary dressed up as moral nobility. The Stoics would not celebrate that. They would ask whether your actions are governed by reason, integrity, and inner order, or by fear, compulsion, and unexamined emotion. A loving person can still say no. A generous person can still require space. A compassionate person can still refuse chaos. A peaceful person can still walk away from dynamics that survive only because he keeps bleeding into them. In fact, sometimes that is the most loving thing available, to stop participating in patterns that require self-neglect to continue. 12. The courage to be misunderstood. There is a price to protecting peace. And one part of that price is being misunderstood by people who benefited from your former openness. This is where many people collapse. Not when setting the boundary internally, but when facing the reactions that follow. Because once you stop responding instantly, some people call you distant. Once you stop over-explaining, some people call you cold. Once you stop volunteering emotional labor, some people call you changed. Once you stop absorbing every tone, some people call you difficult. Once you no longer make yourself endlessly available, some people act offended, as if your peace were a privilege they had already budgeted into their lives. This is where Stoic strength becomes essential. Because if your sense of goodness depends on being universally understood, you will never be free. Epictetus understood this. He knew that anyone trying to live with seriousness and integrity would eventually have to tolerate external misreading. He knew that if you are governed by the fear of what others may think, then your freedom has already been sold. A peaceful life requires the courage to let some people think less of you. Not because you enjoy being misjudged, but because the alternative is living under emotional blackmail. And emotional blackmail does not always look dramatic. Sometimes it looks like disappointment you feel pressured to fix. Tone you feel pressured to soothe. Silence you feel pressured to fill. Expectations you feel pressured to perform. But not all disappointment is yours to resolve. Not all confusion is yours to clean up. Not all reactions are evidence of wrongdoing. Sometimes another person's discomfort is simply the sound of your boundary colliding with their expectation. That does not mean the boundary is wrong. It may mean it is late. This is one of the hard maturities of adult peace, learning that being misunderstood is not the end of moral life. Sometimes it is part of it. If your restraint is honest, if your boundary is clean, if your silence is not manipulative but necessary, then let some misunderstanding remain. You do not have to chase every false impression. You do not have to rescue every narrative. You do not have to spend your final reserves proving that your peace is not an insult to others. Let some people adjust. Let some stories stand. Let some relationships reveal what they were truly built on. Because one of the clearest tests of a relationship is this. Does it survive when you stop overgiving? 13. What inner peace really is. Inner peace is not the absence of responsibility. It is not the disappearance of difficulty. It is not a life where no one ever disappoints you, interrupts you, misunderstands you, or needs something from you. It is not passivity. It is not withdrawal. It is not a fantasy of perfect conditions. Inner peace is stronger than that. It is governance. It is the disciplined order of your inner life. It is the ability to remain in possession of yourself while moving through a world that constantly invites you to lose yourself. It is knowing what deserves entry and what does not. It is knowing when to speak and when silence protects more than speech. It is knowing when care is clean and when care has become compulsion. It is knowing when presence is meaningful and when presence is being extracted. It is knowing when guilt is moral signal and when guilt is just conditioning resisting change. It is knowing that your mind is not public property. It is knowing that your nervous system is not a waiting room for every urgent emotion around you. It is knowing that not every external event deserves an internal collapse. This is what the Stoics aimed at. Not a soft, decorative calm. Not a fragile mood. A governed mind. A steady soul. A life in which one's center is not constantly rented out to whatever arrives next. And this is why peace must be protected through habit. Not once. Daily. Through pauses. Through observation. Through selective availability. Through fewer explanations. Through more silence. Through solitude. Through better questions. Through the discipline of asking, again and again, what deserves my life force? That question changes everything. Because your energy is your life in motion. Where it goes, your days go. Where your days go, your character forms. Where your character forms, your future quietly follows. A person who continually spends his best energy on interruption, guilt, comparison, performance, and unmanaged access will feel fragmented even if his life looks successful. A person who protects his inner economy may still face difficulty, but he will meet it with more presence, more clarity, more steadiness, more truth. And that difference changes the quality of an entire life. 14. The final mistake. Remember the mistake I mentioned at the beginning? The one many kind, thoughtful, decent people make without realizing it? It is this. They confuse being good with being endlessly accessible. That confusion has drained countless lives. Because once you believe goodness means constant openness, you begin surrendering peace in the name of virtue. You answer when you need stillness. You explain when silence would be wiser. You stay available when your body needs closure. You keep giving because stopping feels morally suspicious. You carry what is not yours because setting it down feels unkind. But goodness and endless accessibility are not the same thing. A good person can still be discerning. A loving person can still say no. A calm person can still walk away. A compassionate person can still refuse chaos. A wise person can still protect his inner world from unnecessary access. In fact, true goodness often requires discernment. Otherwise, goodness becomes a performance people can exploit. It becomes a softness with no structure. A doorway with no lock. A generosity with no wisdom. And the world will spend that version of you without hesitation. Not always maliciously. Often casually. Thoughtlessly. Conveniently. Because people usually take the shape of access you allow. If you teach them that your peace is negotiable, they will negotiate it. If you teach them that your response is instant, they will expect instant response. If you teach them that guilt moves you faster than clarity, some will learn, consciously or unconsciously, how to press guilt. If you teach them that your kindness means unlimited availability, they will build their habits around your overextension. This is why peace requires clearer teaching. You teach people how to relate to you by what you permit, what you delay, what you decline, what you no longer over-explain, what you stop rescuing, what you stop carrying. That teaching does not have to be loud. It has to be consistent. And the first person you teach is yourself. You teach yourself that your life force matters. That your mind deserves guarding. That your clarity is not optional. That your center is not something to visit only after everyone else has had access to it. That peace is not what remains after the world is done with you. It is what you protect before the world gets in too deeply. 15. Bring it all together. So let us gather the truth of this. Your peace is rarely destroyed in one dramatic moment. More often, it is drained in silence. Through over-availability. Through over-explanation. Through poor energetic boundaries. Through comparison. Through fear of perception. Through imagined obligation. Through the need to maintain an identity others are comfortable with. Through the unconscious habit of making yourself emotionally reachable at all times. The Stoic answer is not withdrawal from life. It is intelligent participation. To observe before reacting. To pause before agreeing. To notice before absorbing. To question what society praises. To recognize where your goodness has become self-erasure. To stop confusing performance with virtue. To stop offering your nervous system as a landing place for every external urgency. To stop believing that your peace must be surrendered in order to prove your love. Inner peace is not selfish. It is structure. It is governance. It is the condition that allows your love to remain clean, your mind to remain clear, your judgment to remain strong, and your life to remain truly yours. So if lately you have felt inwardly scattered, do not begin by accusing yourself of weakness. Begin with honesty. Begin with observation. Begin by asking where your energy has been leaking. Begin by admitting that you may have too many open doors. Then close a few. Not in bitterness. In wisdom. Let some messages wait. Let some calls go unanswered until you are ready. Let some misunderstandings remain uncorrected. Let some expectations die if they require your exhaustion to survive. Let some roles fall away if they were built on your chronic overgiving. Let some people meet the newer, calmer, slower, less accessible version of you. Not because you no longer care. Because you finally do. Because care without wisdom becomes collapse. Because kindness without boundary becomes depletion. Because love without self-respect becomes self-abandonment. And because if you do not protect your inner world, the world will spend it for you, quietly, repeatedly, and without ever fully noticing what it cost. If this spoke to something you have been feeling but could not quite name, stay with StoicCraft. Here, we are not trying to become colder. We are trying to become clearer. We are not trying to escape life. We are trying to live it without being internally conquered by noise, pressure, performance, and unconscious surrender. And I want to leave you with one honest question. What has been draining you the most lately? People, pressure, or your own thoughts? Write it in the comments. Because sometimes the beginning of peace is simply telling the truth about where it has been leaking.